Greetings and thank you for joining us on this webinar today. My name is Jarrett Ryan. I'm the KASTA brand manager at Amber Technology, and I'm joined by KASTA product manager Jeffrey Harris.
Hello,
Jeffrey.
Hello.
So today's webinar is a follow-up to a webinar we hosted recently and an introduction to KASTA and wireless technology, where we discussed who KASTA was as a brand and the technology and the products. The feedback we received from that webinar was that you guys would like to see how a KASTA system goes together, how to design it, specify it, and configure the system using the KASTA app. So that's what we'll endeavor to do today on a 2-bedroom apartment project. The PDF we're going to use today is available as a download from the KASTA website, and is available also from Amber Technology with costings. So if you want to see how a project like this is costed, you can request that, along with a copy of the recording of the first webinar if you missed that one. So without any further delay, I'll hand over to Jeffrey to start the presentation.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Jared. So today we'll just be going through the 2-bedroom apartment, how to add devices, program, commission, etc. In order to do that, we've got this document that we'll work through. So this is a 2-bedroom apartment. So as we go through this PDF document, it gives us a little bit of an overview as to the KASTA system and some of the key benefits of the system and how it can be utilized in various applications. Of course, all of our KASTA devices can be controlled via our free KASTA app or via voice control with Amazon Alexa or Google Home, as well as any of our switch interfaces, including Hesperus Touch, Hesperus Push, and Multiview. So as we scroll through, there's some more explanation as to the different types of control, and then we arrive at this floor plan as to a typical layout for a 2-bedroom apartment. So when receiving a layout for a particular project, that's when KASTA can be reviewed and implemented depending on the customer's requirements. They may want the whole home or site to be KASTA controlled, or they may only require certain zones to be controlled. So on this particular page here, we have the layout showing various icons of different KASTA control. And then on the right-hand side here, we have the legend, bill of materials, and the total quantities. So if I zoom in onto the legend here, we've come up with a range of icons that will be able to be downloaded and utilized in your drawings from our website. So we've identified a switching relay circuit there with the orange dotted line, and then a dimming circuit with the green dotted line, and then a black dotted line for our RGB products. And then in order to distinguish between a relay module, MEC, or socket, we've got the socket icon in this particular case. So again, an orange socket for a relay and a green socket for a dimmer. And then beneath that, we have our curtain controller module, our dry contact module, Cloud Connect gateway, and then we have in purple and pink our switch plate identifiers. So depending on the location and the number of plates required, that just increases from switch 1 to switch 2, etc. And then the second number there referring to the number of gangs on that plate. Also on this particular design, we have non-smart products included as well from our KASTA Unison range. So they're highlighted there in the green switch plate numbers. And then finally, we have our Hesperus Smart PowerPoint. So if you look over onto the layout, you can see at the balcony there, we have one relay circuit and that's using a relay socket, and it's being controlled from switch plate 5, gang number 2, to control that lighting circuit. Again, something similar there from switch plate number 6 and gang number 1, we're controlling a dimming circuit in the master bedroom there. You'll note in the drawing we have the Cloud Connect gateway that's central within the apartment and close to the Wi-Fi router. Beneath the legend, then we have our bill of materials. So that includes a summary of all the items required for this particular apartment. So 4 relays, 3 dimmers, 2 curtain controllers, etc. So that helps with quotation for how much the project's going to cost and allows a simple summary for people to review. And then below that, we have our total quantity, which shows a split between smart and non-smart devices. Following on from that, onto the second page here, we have switch schedule. So in order to determine the type of control required at different locations, this page helps us to distinguish what devices are being controlled and if there's any labeling involved. So with Hesperus Touch, you can label each button. With the Hesperus Push product, you can use icons on the buttons themselves. So as an example there, if we look at switch plate number 1, it's a 5-gang plate. We have a welcome and goodbye scene at the top there. We have also direct control beneath that. So for the kitchen downlight, kitchen strip, and kitchen pendant. The device beneath that at switch plate number 2 is multi-view. So that has multiple pages which can be configured depending on the level of control required. So there it's just listed the control on the first page and the second page. These plates can also be installed horizontally, so it's also important when it comes to labeling to be able to distinguish whether it's a vertical or a horizontal plate. You'll also note on this drawing, we also have listed the non-smart devices as well. So from switch plate number 7 onwards, they're all standard 240 volt non-smart switch plate control. So for those of you not familiar with range as much, the Hesperus Touch comes in a number of colours, allows engraving under the plate, as well as features haptic capacitive touch buttons. Whereas the Hesperus Push has more of a physical impress type of button and is featured in still the most popular colours, as well as allowing the ability to change the LED indicator and then pictograms to identify button function. So in addition to that, for areas which don't require smart control, we also have our Unison 240 volt range in a range of switches and power points and datacom accessories. Previously, we were talking about the multi-view, having multiple pages for you to program and add to. This is the Hesperus multi-view, so up to 5 pages you can fill and customize as necessary. These are all updated real time from the app to the device as you make changes. And again, you can alter the LED indicator. It features proximity sensor and comes in 2 most popular colors. All those Hesperus Touch, Push and the multi-view devices can be linked to any of our other control modules. So the surface sockets we mentioned before, but in addition to that, our dry contact module, our curtain controller module, and our 5-meter RGB strip kit in this particular 2-bedroom apartment. Obviously, we have a lot more devices in our range, but that's what's utilised in this particular design. So moving on from there, we'll be referring to this document throughout the the webinar, but now we'll start to onboard and create a mesh for this particular home. So we first download the KASTA app. That's free to download from Google Play or Apple Store. Before getting to this screen that you can see here, you need to set up an account. So that requires your email and for you to set up a password. Once you've created that, then you're brought to this home screen. From there, you can then create a new mesh network. So to create a new mesh network, we touch the top right-hand cog. That brings up a list of options under settings. We tap on network. And from here, we can create a new network. So press plus again. And then it allows me to either create a new network or join an existing network. In this case, we're going to create a new one. So we tap that. Then it asks us to come up with a name and a PIN. From there, we can come up with a name that's suitable. In this case, we'll just call it 2-bedroom apartment. And it asks me to come up with a PIN. So just following the requirements listed below that to make sure that it's a suitable PIN. And then we click save.
So just on that, Jeffrey, if you've got a homeowner then who owns multiple homes, they've got a holiday house and so on, this would allow them through their app to simply choose which home they're in and control that.
That's correct.
How many of those, how many networks can you have in the app?
So you can have up to 10 on the one account at one time.
That's great.
So that allows you between perhaps a relative's home or a holiday home, office account, etc. Allows you to be able to connect and disconnect as required.
That's really simple. Thanks.
And then you'll notice there's a pop-up there. The Bluetooth device and data will be stored inside this mobile device. If you want remote sharing or add a gateway, you need to upload the data later. Now we're brought to this screen. So in this particular case, I do wish to be able to access and grant permissions later on. So you can do this at the end of creating your mesh network and adding devices, but in this case, I'll do it at the start. So by enabling the data upload, you can use add member for remote sharing or add gateway for remote control and voice control. But you need internet connection if you want to add new devices in the future. That's just a recommendation for you to keep in mind if you're modifying and adjusting the network after it's been commissioned initially. So now that we've done that, we go back to our home screen. Now we're going to start to onboard some of the devices onto the network. So all these devices have to be pre-wired and have to be energized in order to be discovered. So in order to just add those devices to the network, we tap on device, then we tap on add, and then we select, in this case, a Bluetooth device. So now it's going to search for nearby devices that haven't been associated with another network that will allow us to add to our new mesh network. So I can go through and select a few devices at one time and up to 10 at a time, and then click add.
So Jeffrey, while it's adding that, what is to prevent then from your app from capturing KASTA devices that might be in a neighboring house or a neighboring apartment?
So if it's been associated with another network, it won't allow you to add to your network. It'll prevent you from doing that. So you may still be able to search for them, but you won't be able to add or control those. So once it's associated to a network, it's locked to that particular network. Okay,
so that's not dissimilar to what you would have if you're looking in your mobile device. You would be able to see other Bluetooth devices and other wireless networks in the neighborhood, but you wouldn't be able to access them. So this is not dissimilar to that.
Correct.
So, Jeffrey, would you do this? Can we talk about the, whether you would do this, pre-configure this system off-site with these devices on a bench, or would you configure this once it was in the home?
So yeah, there is a few options depending on the preference of the person who's doing the install versus the commissioning. So people may choose to pre-wire and on a bench in an office. If they've done it in this particular method, then you've energized, you've added the devices one by one, and you're renaming, then labeling those devices. So once you get to site, you know that switch plate 1 is controlling dimmer socket 3, etc. So it can make it easier to install. Of course, whoever's doing the electrical installation needs to be able to follow the drawing and follow the associated devices that are being labelled. The other approach is what we're doing here. So we're in the home already. We've found a number of devices. Now we're adding them to the network first. And then once we've added them, that's when we're discovering where these devices are located throughout the home. And then we're going to relabel them as appropriate.
Okay, and that wouldn't really matter then whether if it was a new build or whether it was a retrofit, you've still got those options available.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And so if I'm adding these devices, I'm adding, a relay module to control some lights. How will I know when I've added this one, what lights it's controlling? Is there a way to test that?
Yes. So once we've finished adding our devices, then we can go in to the device section and control the device directly. So when you see the lights turning on, you know it's connected to that particular circuit, so therefore you can rename it. So if you're in the kitchen, you can see the kitchen lights turning off and on, then you can relabel that appropriately.
Okay, and how about for the remote switches? How would you identify those?
So after you've added those devices, there's what's called a Find Me function under that device's settings. So when you click Find Me, it'll cause the interface to flash. The lights will flash, so it makes it easy to identify which interface you're controlling at that time.
Okay, great. That makes a lot of sense. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, depending on how you're adding it, you may wish first just to add all your sockets, then you might go back and then add all your curtain control modules. There's a few different ways depending on the size and scope of the project that you're doing. So.
Okay, well, in the space of this 5 minutes or so, you'd be able to add all of those devices to the app. So it's not a time-consuming process.
No. In this case, yeah, fairly straightforward. So yes. So now we've added the remaining of the devices for the 2-bedroom apartments. So now it's asking, do I want to add more or go to device page? In this case, I want to go to device page. So up the top here, we've presented with lighting and appliance. So all the lighting control devices are listed under lighting, whereas under appliance, you have your remote switches and other modules like your tri-contact module, your fan control module, these sorts of things. And so as we were discussing before, if we want to know what device is controlling what load, then we can just simply tap on one of the icons. So I'm tapping on the relay icon at the top left there, and in front of me there's a light turning off and on. So then I know in relation to where that's located as to how I'm going to rename that. So in this case, if I long press, I'm brought up with the settings of that particular device. So I can turn that device off and on from there as well. But in this case, we also want to be able to rename that. So in this particular case, because it's a relay socket, we can look at where the relays are located on that floor plan of the 2-bedroom apartment. So in this case, there's a relay socket on the balcony. So I might just call that balcony for now. And so I've changed the name to balcony. Once I'm happy with that, then I can click save. And now you see the name's been updated on the device section. So then I can go through again for another relay. If I check back on the design, there's a relay in the hallway. So I might call that hallway.
So Jeffrey, before you save out of there, we can also change the icon, right? So rather than see a PowerPoint, we could have an icon that looks like a light or something.
Correct. So yeah, you can select from any of these icons as to what you need to make things easier to identify within the project.
Right, okay.
Straightforward. Yeah. Then we have our socket dimmer, so I can go through, notice that there's one in the master bedroom there. Again, now this is a dimmer, we don't just have on-off control. I can also adjust this slider to dim up and dim down the light as necessary. In this case, I can call that master bedroom. And save that. And we have another relay. Controlling kitchen pendant. And then we have another relay controlling the kitchen downlights. And we also have an RGB strip. So this has a few more settings to control than the relay or dimmer socket. So we have our color wheel. You can drop the crosshairs anywhere to adjust the color as needed. I can also select from the palette. It comes up with a range of popular colors to choose from. Or if I just want to use a different CCT color instead, I can select from the wheel in this case. And this particular strip kit, you can also dim up and down as necessary. And also you can cycle the color as well. So it'll cycle through from red, green, blue, etc.
That's great. So Jeffrey, that control, the interface we're looking at there, that's the same for all of KASTA's RGBW lighting options, the globes and the downlights as well?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
So if we want to rename that as well, so we go up to edit again, and then I'm just going to rename, in this case it's in the kitchen bench, the strip, so give that a name, and then we click save. Also have a curtain module here, so again we've got the ability to open, pause and close that particular module. So again, if I need to rename that, I think in this particular case we have one in the master bedroom. Okay, so we've renamed all our devices. We've gone through some of the settings there. If I tab over to the appliance section, that lists some of our remote switches as mentioned, as well as our power points and in this particular case, dry contacts. So I'll just go into PowerPoint to show you, you can individually control each socket on the PowerPoint. It also features a child lock to prevent being able to turn on that socket when not advisable. So again, from there, we can rename again the device. So in this case, we have a PowerPoint in the master bedroom. And beneath here, depending on what that PowerPoint's controlling, you can also rename those devices, those sockets, and you can also enable and disable the child lock for each socket there.
So Jeffrey, this could be very useful for controlling obviously all sorts of things, appliances and devices, but floor lamps and table lamps and things like that, to incorporate those into KASTA control.
Correct. Yeah.
Great.
Very useful. Just
and I guess you could also use it if you wanted to power cycle devices in an equipment rack as well, right? To be able to do that remotely, or anything that needs turning off and on, either within the building or remotely.
Yeah, certainly for light commercial applications, or just anywhere you don't really have physical access to turn off and on those devices, or devices that just need to be scheduled off and on, whether it's machinery or equipment, these kinds of things.
Right. Okay.
And so now we'll just go through into some of our remote switches. So the preceding push, Hesperus push product. So this is a 1-gang version in this particular case. So it says press each button to link to a KASTA function. Yellow button indicates successful link. So I can click done. Now, if I'm in the home and I haven't particularly remembered, there's lots of 1-gang plates throughout the home, where is this one located? I can click on the Find Me function. So I click on that, and then it advises the LED light in the device will flash for 30 seconds. So at the moment, that device is flashing. And so once I've identified that, then I can choose what I want to link to. So I click on the button, then it's prompting me to link to something. And so in this case, I can choose something that I wish to link to. So in this particular case, if we look at the 2-bedroom apartment, there's the hallway on switch plate number 3. So I can select hallway, and now it's telling me it's successfully linked. And so if I go back into that device, now I can see the hallway is being linked to that button. So now I can turn off and on that light as necessary. Okay. Then we can go to the next one and see whereabouts that one's located. So that's number 6. So if I'm looking for number 6, that's in the master bedroom. So that's a dimmer socket in this case. So then I can select the master dimmer socket. Now it's saying successfully linked. So again, I go back in, I can see that that's now been linked to that device. And now I can check. And it's now controlling that dimmer socket.
That's great. And Jeffrey, can I rename those the remote switches as well?
Yes, yep. I could have done that part before as well. So I think the first one we linked to was the hallway. So I just need to call that. In this case, we'll give it a reference to the switch plate it was referred to before. So SO3 G01. And then I can go into this other one in the bedroom. SO6 G01. So again, it depends whether you wish to hand over a project to the end customer to be able to control, modify themselves, or you only wish for them to be able to control. I guess that'll kind of determine how you label devices, groups and scenes, etc., whether it's related to a drawing of your own or whether it's more just the customer's preference. So moving on from there, we can go to the 2-gang plate. So if we're looking for a 2-gang plate, is SO4. So in this case, if I'm looking at that, then there's the balcony is the first button. So I click on that and I can then link to the balcony control. I've linked to that successfully now. As the rings turned yellow, now I can click to the second button. So in this case, I wish to link to the master bedroom curtain control. Now it's saying, do I wish to link to open or link to close or link to the whole device? Because this is just a 2-gang plate, we won't have the flexibility of having separate button control. It'll just be combined control. So I select the whole device and now it's successfully linked. So in order to control that blind, I can press once to open. I press the button again to close, or if I long press, I can pause to control that particular blind.
Okay, so that's pretty intuitive. So that's the same operation as if I was using a button to control to dimmable light circuit.
Correct. And I'm just looking for the other button, SO. Yeah, that's correct. And then we can repeat the same thing again for SO5 GO2. So we're just linking from a different location here for the same level of control for that particular device. And now moving on to our 5th button here, this 5-gang button, when we refer to it on SO1, is requiring 2 scenes as well as 3 direct control devices. So I haven't set up the scenes yet, but for now I can link the direct device control. So the middle button is to control the kitchen downlight. So I select kitchen downlight and that's successfully linked. And if I need to also control the kitchen strip, I can go through and select kitchen bench. And then I can also link to kitchen pendant. And I just give that a name. Okay, so from there, we'll also go into make some scenes now in order to complete this project. So from there, if we look down the bottom, there's a number of options on the screen: device, group, room, or scene. We click on the scene tab. Then if we wish to create a new scene, we click the plus symbol. Then I can add some contents to this scene. So if I look at the requirements for the welcome scene on the switch plate, one, it says turns on kitchen, dining and living downlights. So when I go to look at the devices I wish to control, I look for the kitchen downlight, so I select that, and that's telling me that I need to have it on. So I turn the device on, and then I'm clicking add in the top right-hand corner. Then after that, I also need to do the same thing for the other devices. So I also need to add this one as well for the dining area, and also for the kitchen. We also just need to have that turn on. That's correct. We don't need downlights for that particular one. So once we've completed that, we can click save. And if we wish to give it a name, then we can call that welcome. And then we click save. But something I just realized then, I haven't selected that scene for the dimmer to be on. So I can click modify, I can go back in, turn that to on, click add, click save again, and now it's updated successfully. So it does give you the options if things change throughout the design process or the customer wants a slight variation. It's fairly easy to go in and to modify scenes as required. Whilst we're here, we'll also do a goodbye scene. So that's saying to turn off all lights. So that's everything throughout the home. So I can go through into balcony, turn that off. I can go into the hallway, turn that off. I can go into the master bedroom, we turn that off. Kitchen pendant, turn that off. Kitchen downlight, turn that off. Same goes for the strip and the dimmer, but it's only saying for light, so I don't need to turn off the power points, I don't need to turn off the curtain module or anything like that. So then I click save, I give it a name, I can call it goodbye, and then once I'm finished, I click save. So now I can go back to my device page, and then I can long press on the 5-gang plate. So for the remaining 2 buttons, I can select the first button and I can link it to the welcome scene, saying it's successful. Then I click the remaining button, the goodbye scene, and link that to the 5-gang plate. Now you can see all of these have been completed. So now I can control various scenes on that device, as well as the direct control that's been linked to it. Moving on from there, we can also do a similar approach there with our multi-view. So we can make up more scenes there. So we can look at turning off and on different devices there. I can add on some lights. So once the dining and hallway lights off, so I can turn that off. And dim living lights to 30%. And then click save, give it a name. So in this case, it's a TV scene. And click save.
So Jeffrey, now the process of linking these scenes and devices to the multi-view, what does that look like?
Yep, so if I go back to device now, I can long press on the multi-view. This is asking me, your device is not connected to any Wi-Fi network. Would you like to connect it to Wi-Fi for remote control? That's for firmware updates predominantly, to keep new features coming out, it can update itself. But for this particular demo, I'll just say not now. Then we move on to this screen. So it allows me to link any of the device groups, room or scenes that I've created in the app to one of these buttons. So I can then click on the first plus symbol there, and then it'll ask me what do I wish to link to that first button on the multi-view device. So in this case, looking at the drawing, we're going to link it to the TV. So I select TV and then I click link. Then after that, we can also add other controls if we need to. So in this particular one, we can also add the living room downlights, as well as other devices as well. And once we're happy with what we've linked to, then we can click Save and Sync at the bottom. Once we've done that,
So we've got one there that says socket timers that we've got a device not labeled.
that's right, yes. I missed that one when I've gone through. So that one was for the living area. So
Got it.
I can go back and rename that if I need to. Yeah, just going back through the multi-view there, if you need more than one page, then that's where you can click Add Page at the bottom there, which will create a new page. So if you don't click that, the homeowner or the user is only going to see those first 4 controls, but if there's more controls required, it will add a page, which is then replicated on the LCD screen on the multi-view.
Right, so that's the bottom of the 5 buttons, then cycles through those pages, right?
Correct, yeah. So there's 5 buttons on the device itself. The first 4 buttons are for control of a group, scene or device, and then the final button is for cycling through the devices.
Okay.
Or sorry, the linked controls. Okay. So in this case, I can also go back to the dry contact. In this case, that's going to be controlling the air conditioning in this particular application. So that's going to be, depending on what you're trying to control, you have a number of options to choose. And then the duration of the pulse, depending on what you're controlling. So that's just, we only require open and close for this particular application. So that's what I've labeled it as for there, to make things simple. So in that particular case, it's asking for on-off control of button 1 and button 2. So in order to create a button just to turn on the aircon and a button just to turn off the aircon, we can't just use device control. You could normally just use that for a single button, but in this case, we need to create a scene for that. So that's a single command, whereas a group allows you to toggle device control, whereas a scene is a single set of commands to those devices. So in this case, I can click Add, turn it on, label it as AC on, save that, create a new one, select again, turning it off. So now if I come back to the device section, a long press on the multi-view, I need a second page now according to the design. Then I can click on the first button there, and then I can select for it to be AC on. And then I can also swipe right and select AC off. And then I click Save and Sync. And so that's pretty much it for that. So if you're in those applications where you do need to make a group, so you're looking to control multiple devices, they might be the same devices or combination of different devices, you can choose the group selection at the bottom there. That allow us to add devices. So depending on what we wish to control, in this particular case, I might select a PowerPoint and I might select the hallway. Then I click add. It says it's successfully added. Obviously I can rename the group as well. And then I click save. Now, because that's a combination of devices, in that particular case, it'll allow me to turn the PowerPoint off and on, and it'll allow me to turn the relay off and on. But if I long press to bring up the control options, it's only going to show on and off. There's no other different control there. Whereas if I had a group of dimmers, I'd obviously be able to turn off and on as well as dim up and down. But if you combine a relay and a dimmer together, you can only control the common functionality, which is on and off.
That's really good, Jeffrey. So in the space, of the last half an hour or so, we've captured all of those devices, added them to our app and configured the whole apartment. Can we see what the schedule and timer looks like?
Yep. So if I go to schedule, so this is for applications where you may not be at home, you're wanting lights to turn off and on to simulate occupancy, or you just need certain devices to be turned on when you're not available. So we can create a schedule by clicking add, then we can give it a name. So we can just call it away, for instance. Then it asks us to choose a condition. So condition is setting up the time that you wish that to occur. And so you can scroll between AM and PM, and then down the bottom there you have an option of whether it's a one-off schedule to turn on a same device or group, or if you wish it to be repeated. So if I select repeat, then it's going to repeat multiple times there. So if I click next, it gives me more options. Then I can choose whether I want it every Monday, every Tuesday, or every Wednesday and Saturday. Or if you prefer a particular date range, you can select date at the top there, and it'll give you the option to select, provided it's not in the past, of course. You can select a date range, so in this case 16th to the 19th. And then it'll come up with a task, so you can choose what you want to happen in that particular time. So you might turn the kitchen down light off. If you need to add more devices, you click continue adding. In this particular case, you might want the socket dimmer on at 75% there. Or you might want the curtain closed at that particular time.
That's great, Jeffrey. So you could use that for all sorts of things, right? You could use it for, if you're away from the home, to make it simulate that you're home. You could use it for turning sprinklers off and on. You could use it for, if it was in a commercial application, I imagine you could use it in a cafe or a restaurant or a bar and have it changing lighting scenes throughout different times of the day. So the staff aren't having to fiddle with dimmers and switches and things to get the mood right.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Even, just to avoid people leaving devices on when they've left the day for work, etc. Yeah, it's quite a handy tool to have. So once we've created that schedule, your summary of schedules comes up onto this screen here. So you can then add and delete depending on what's required for your particular project. So you can enable and disable, and then if necessary, long press, and then you brought back with the options allowing you to modify as necessary.
That's great. And what's the difference then between the schedule and the timer?
So a timer is normally set that you are enabling at that particular time. So it's not set a particular date, etc. So you're just selecting you need this device to turn off or on after a certain period of time. So if we create a timer, then it'll ask us to add some content. So in this case, we can select kitchen bench, and we can select whether we want to turn that RGB strip off or on. So perhaps this case was telling it to turn off, and then we've brought up with a number of options as to how long that timer should run for. So anywhere from a minute up to 24 hours. So and then once we're happy with those settings, then we can click save. Once that's completed, then similar to the schedule, you're brought up with a list of timers that you've created. This one you can now enable, and now you can see that that is now counting down. So once that time is over, it's going to turn off the RGB strip. Of course, if the RGB strip is already off and the timer runs out, it's still going to remain off. It's not going to do the opposite function.
That's so easy. And lastly, then along the, what's the how does the room function work?
So for some users, particularly those applications where they're going to be installing the app onto an iPad or tablet, this sort of thing, some users may find it easier to use the room control function. So that allows us to add our devices into photos of the actual project that's been installed. So if I wish to add rooms, I can click plus, and then it comes up with a list of different types of rooms within the home. So in this case, it's a 2-bedroom apartment. There's one living room, there's a bathroom, etc. So we can just add and minus those as required. So once we've done that, then you can choose whether you wish to add another floor or to continue to add. So in this case, we'll just say we've only got the single floor for now. Then if we wish to add devices to each of those rooms or change the photo, you can long press and allow you then to edit that room. So for this particular bedroom, we click on edit. And I can change the icon if I needed to. Perhaps the bedroom isn't the best description for that room, perhaps. Otherwise, I can also give it a name. So it might be John's bedroom, let's say. And then we can also select a room photo if necessary as well, which allows us to access a gallery of images that are stored on your phone, or you can use the standard images that are included on the app. Then if you wish to add a device, you can add a device at the bottom here. So click add device. In this particular case, we might just select the master bedroom, and then we might select the master PowerPoint as well. So we might just reposition that light there, and that's now allowing us to turn off and on those lights from that location. If I also want to add the PowerPoint, let's say that PowerPoint was also controlling these table lamps in this particular image, then I can just drag that to the relevant location and then turn the PowerPoint off and on as necessary.
That's so simple, Jeffrey. All right, I'm conscious that they're coming up on an hour pretty shortly. So maybe would we have time then to demonstrate the cloud gateway?
Yeah, we can do that. So in order to add a gateway, go back to the home page here. We can select device. Then we're going to select add, the plus symbol in the top left. Instead of selecting Bluetooth device this time, we're going to select gateway. And then you brought up 2 options. So in this case, we're selecting the Cloud Connect gateway. So select that, and then I press start setup. So now you're prompted with a few instructions. So obviously you can connect power to the gateway first. Once that's connected and turned on, then you select next. Then it'll ask you to 9 times quickly press the button on the rear of the gateway. So once I've done that, then I can press next. Then it asks me the question, is the red LED indicator on the device blinking rapidly? In this case, it is. So I select yes. Quick press the button 3 times and then wait for the red LED indicator to blink slowly. So I press. Press that 3 times. Now it's blinking slowly, so then I click next. Then it's asking for me to enter the password to a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi connection. So this particular gateway doesn't work on 5 gigahertz, only 2.4. So I enter in the network details, and then we click next. Then it prompts me, it says, to set up your gateway, we need your help to connect to the Smart Life network. For example, Smart Life A39A. Once connected, please then return to this app to continue setting up your gateway. Click next to go to your Wi-Fi settings. So I click next, and then it's allowing me to choose. From there, it's allowing me to select. Okay. I think it's allowing me to now select from there, so I can go in and select the Smart Life. And now it's saying it's correct. And now it's going to allow the gateway to connect to that Wi-Fi network.
So while it's doing that, we should explain these gateways. So, with a KASTA system, right, there's no central controller. That's one of the advantages of the KASTA system. You don't have a single point of failure in a KASTA system. And so therefore the gateways are actually optional, right? So the Cloud Connect gateway, it's only required if you want to have remote access to the system from the app. And also then allows integration with Alexa and Google, right?
That's correct, yeah. So For those homes that just require, direct control from a switch plate or from an iPhone or tablet, etc., within the home, they don't need a gateway. It's not required. So.
And I saw then the other gateway as well. So we have the Plexi gateway that again is optional, and that is an Ethernet gateway that allows you to integrate your KASTA system with a third-party control system. So with RTI or Control4 or Crestron Home, etc., then we can integrate KASTA with one of those platforms.
Yeah, so now the Cloud Connect gateway's been added successfully. We can click Save. And then if you signed up to Amazon Alexa or Google Home, you can now control your KASTA devices using voice control, setup control now. So for this particular case, we won't. But there you go. Now you can see under appliance, it's now listed there and it has the online status. So now we can remotely access this particular network off-site as required.
That's excellent, Jeffrey. So thanks for that. I don't think we really had anything else to cover today. So appreciate you hosting this presentation. And for those who are not watching this live, we'll make this recording available. So with that, we'll close off. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Jarrett. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, bye for now.
See you guys. Bye-bye.